once this depression hits, once the monetary system is changed, it could take place where most people aren't even aware of why or anything about it. All they'll know is the how. They'll know that they now have this little, doodad on their phone that they have to use for payment and they can't use a credit card anymore, or whatever happens. They won't even know why. I think, and that disturbs me greatly. I mean, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I'd say almost everybody would know why. I don't think so. I think that they're so slick, the media, the controlled media, that most people will be convinced by the media that this was, totally necessary. It was based on it's either the war or another country or those nasty speculators or some combination of make it up. It'll be something other than the truth, and that most people will buy the lie, and they will institute a new form, a new monetary reform. Which be careful what it is, because depending on what your persuasion is, you might want to opt out. Look, I've never advocated that you need just food and precious metals. That's ridiculous. But I do advocate that you have some precious metals. And as far as food, I don't think there's anything wrong with owning it, because I think it's a no-lose bet. And the financial system at large is in deep, deep trouble. And their agricultural system is in trouble now, and probably has been for quite some time. Because one thing that I don't emphasize enough is that it takes 10 calories of energy to make 1 calorie of food under the present system. That can't go on forever either. So there's a lot out there that's going to be corrected by nature itself. It's not going to be whether these people can manipulate the market forever, David. David, they've been doing it for so long, they can do it forever. No, they can't. There's something called nature. So you can't print a piece of paper that says silver on it and put it in an iPhone. It won't work. And that's true for the food supply. That's true for the water. It's true for the air. It's true for everything. Everything's been corrupted. I'm on a rant, but honestly, we've got to look at value. It's valuable to have pure air. It's valuable to have clean water. It's valuable to have healthy food. It's valuable to tell the truth. And these things are, that kind of integrity is what made America great. But it's not like that anymore. Everybody's chiseling off of everybody else for the almighty dollar. The real religion in the United States of America is the dollar.
Welcome back to Finance and Liberty and Reluctant Preppers. We have a returning guest known as the Silver Guru. David Morgan is the founder of themorganreport.com. Today is Monday, November 11th, 2019. David, thanks for joining us again here.
Well, thanks for having me back.
There's been a lot of very amazing things happening in the world of finance and economics and precious metals. Can we start with all the major stock markets in the U.S. hitting all-time highs a couple of times over the past couple of weeks? We've been talking for some months about the stocks being in distribution mode, but it seems that there's this unfailing effort on the parts of those who would like to prop up these markets to keep them propped up. What do you think the major factors are that are driving this melt up in the markets, and do you see that continuing for an extended period of time, or do you think we're in some end game here?
Well, I think we're near the end game, but it's, you can make a pretty strong argument that stocks have got another year to go at this level or higher. And I don't want to discount that too much. What's behind it, of course, is stock buybacks, all the funny money that's being printed. I think that the plunge protection team likes to make certain that the, financial mainstream media is able to report a higher high all the time. So I think there's a lot behind it, and it's not like a big, vast conspiracy. It's not that. But what it is a lot of bias toward keeping the stock markets high because it makes everybody feel good. It doesn't really reflect, as I've said and many others, anything whatsoever to do with the actual physical economy anymore. It used to. The Dow was a pretty good indicator if the economy was strong or weak. But now it's just another number that's manipulated.
We've been talking with several people, and we're going to have Danielle DiMartino Booth on later this week, talking with us about this inversion of the bond market, the yield curve that happened in the midsummer of this year, and some additional analysis made it look like it could have even have started as early as December of last year. And that indicator of the 3-month to 10-year bond inversion having been an infallible indicator since the 1950s of major recessions. And according to the research that she's been presenting, that can be anywhere from 11 months to 24 months after that inversion that you see a major recession. We've had some other people talking to us about evidence on the ground in the real economy of already entering recession. People that you talk with at the conferences you attend and so on, what are you hearing from people who are connected with informants on the ground talking about what the strength of the real economy is?
It is weak. I mean, I agree with everything you said. The actual inversion, it's usually like a year later that the Fed admits it, a year and a half, so she's right on. And then, but the physical economy is actually contracting, not expanding. And that's really the truth. You're not going to hear it from the mainstream financial press. You're not going to hear it from President Trump. You're not going to hear it from the bankers. You're only going to hear it on channels like yours, because even though the truth is that the economy is doing rather poorly and it really hasn't gotten better under Trump, yeah, there are pockets here and there, but on the aggregate, on the whole, on the basis of the complete economy, it is not getting better. It is getting weaker.
Just a little over a week ago, we had a new head of the European Central Bank appointed, Christine Lagarde, and one of her statements was just rather shocking that came out, saying that we should be grateful that her predecessor, Mario Draghi, had been pursuing a negative interest rate policy because she believed that it was stimulating the economy enough to provide jobs. She said we should be glad to have jobs even if it means losing our savings. And taken to its extreme, that seems like saying you should be happy to work for free because you don't get to keep the fruits of your labor, which sounds like slavery, especially if we're not in charge of the decisions that affect that, but it's these unelected officials that are making that decision as our masters. What's your view of the negative interest rate trend and the amount of sovereign debt that's all-time highs that's under negative interest rates globally, and what that's doing to our financial price discovery and so on?
These people are delusional. I mean, they're sick. I mean, there's no, Draghi was put in there because he was a banker. That's the only reason he was installed in that position. He wasn't really elected in my studied view. And then here comes Christine backing it up, saying everything's fine. And let's forget about, the fact that we're eating into people's savings because we have negative interest rates. Be happy to have a job. Think about that for a minute. If you go back to a non-monetary system, you have no money whatsoever, and you don't save some food from your crops for the next year in case you have a bad yield or no crops due to some type of event, boll weevils or some kind of crop damage or whatever, you're done. I mean, savings is the basis of all forms of capital. That's how the system is supposed to work. But everything now is on credit, which isn't capital. Capital formation in the old days meant you had savings and you borrowed against those savings. That hasn't existed for a very, very long time. But she's completely out of whack. But there's probably only one person in 100,000 that really understands that. Most of the people just nod, go along, and I don't like Draghi's personality, but I guess if Christine says it, it must be a good thing. I guess they're doing the best we can. They actually obfuscate the very simple process of money. Money isn't really that complicated. Finance really isn't that complicated, but they make it so. So everyone just kind of bows down to the banking elites and says, well, it's too complicated for me to understand. I just got to go work my 40 hours, my 50 hours, my 60 hours, my 2 jobs, or whatever it is, and eke out a living for a lot of people. I mean, one of the main events that's taking place here, and I'm going off on a digression here, but it's important, is that the middle class is getting wiped out. I mean, I think this is by design. It's the ruling class and then everybody else. And that goes back to the previous question of, well, what's it like in the physical economy? Well, a lot of people are working, but a lot of those people that used to have jobs at middle management or, let's say, make up a number, I'm not in the workforce. I work for myself. So I don't know, like $30 an hour, $40 an hour. They're getting, 16, 18 because the jobs that they once had that were maybe twice the pay rate, they're gone.
The other thing we've seen is that with the federal government taking an ever-increasing, usurping the role of the natural economy by taking over elements of the economy, always in the name of helping people out, of course. Taking over, first you got Medicare, and then you got Obamacare, and then you got federally guaranteed student loans, and then you got federally guaranteed mortgages, and on and on. And as each area that medicine, as far as that taking over those areas, we have a decoupling of those costs just go skyrocketing, and every player the government is subsidizing. We see costs just completely decoupling from people's earnings. We recently had a good friend think that he could retire. He put all his numbers together, said he could retire. After less than a year, had to go back to work half-time just to pay for his medical premiums, which had gone so high. So but back to what you were saying is you're not going to be able to retire if these costs keep spiraling out of hand, and yet the wages aren't keeping pace.
One thing I'd like to add on that, and this is something that very few people even believe, but if you do an inflation-adjusted basis, real wages in the United States for the average person have not gone up since 1978. The number's gone up. You might have been making $19,000 in 1978, you're making $60,000 now. I'm just making up the number. I want to be accurate. But the numbers have gone up. The idea I just gave you is correct. I don't know if the numbers are accurate, but what is accurate numbers-wise is that in real purchasing power, the average American hasn't increased since 1978.
In the face of that, we've seen real money or sound money being abandoned as the basis of transactions worldwide. So what's been going on with the actual purchasing power preserved by precious metals versus the nominal price of them in fiat money, and what are the major factors affecting each of those?
So I'm going to take it separately, gold and silver, because there's a reason for that. But precious metals over time, do what all markets do. They're undervalued, they're fair valued, or they're overvalued. Right now, gold is undervalued. It's not fair valued relative to its purchasing power through history, what it normally would buy. But it's really not that far off. I mean, I certainly think when I say I think gold will get to 3,000 to 5,000, maybe 10, I don't know. But that would be an overvalued situation in today's numbers. However, gold certainly will preserve it. I mean, you get, the most fundamental fact is there's no currency that's lasted more than 100 years or so, and gold has lasted 4,000 or 5,000 years. So it's realized as the kind of the money of last resort. It's sort of shoved off to the sidelines during the modern era, but nonetheless, central banks still own a lot of gold, and they keep it now as a tier 1 asset. So even though they don't really speak about it in public, watch what they do, not what they say. They've been net buyers since 2011. It's very interesting. I put up a chart. So now I'm going to move to silver. I just spoke at the New Orleans Gold Show about a week ago. And in fact, it was exactly a week ago. And my title of my speech was, "What if silver was treated like gold?" So I went through a bunch of nomenclature that everybody's aware of, the golden rule, as good as gold, J.P. Morgan, gold is money, everything else is credit, all that glitters is gold, and all these very positive type of affirmations, you might call them, regarding gold. The gold standard, that's one I left out. I really emphasize that, the gold standard, because there's not only a true gold standard, which we're not on, but gold standard is sort of the measuring stick for almost any product. You talk about, well, this is the gold standard in toothpaste. You know what it means? It means that that's the best one. Say it's the gold standard in the auto industry. Well, that's the best one.
And the one by which all others should be measured.
And all should be measured by. That's right. Thank you for pointing it out. So then you move into silver, and, I put up a book, the Guide to Junk Silver, 1965, or up to 1964. Scrap silver. Don't forget, you can get money for your scrap silver, And then there's the melt value of silver. Of course, there's the melt value of gold, but it seems to be more reference to silver than to gold. Don't worry about that scrap silver. We'll melt it down for you. And of course, to be fair, in the speech, I said there's, every cloud has a silver lining. It's just somewhat positive, and then having a silver spoon, born with a silver spoon in your mouth, implies that you had rich parents or rich family or wealth of some type. So it's not all negative on the silver side. So then I went on to explain, as I have many times, and a lot of people don't believe it because they've been brainwashed, but silver's been money, much more than gold has. As far as length of time, yes, same length of time. As far as purchases, far more purchases were ever made in silver than gold. And as far as transactions, far more transactions in silver than in gold. A bimetallic standard works pretty well. A monometallic standard doesn't really work that well. So then I put up, how long has this been going on? And the answer is a long time. But I went back to the Wizard of Oz, which is a complete metaphor for going off the silver standard. The Cowardly Lion was a reference to the lion, which is William Jennings Bryan. And Dorothy had silver slippers. They put ruby into the movie because they had Technicolor. That's the excuse they used, but ruby slippers really threw off the metaphor, because the metaphor is all about the working class, your farmer, the scarecrow, your mechanic, the robot, the tin man,
yeah.
And then, of course, the leader, supposed leader, the lion, was the political class, William Jennings Bryan. And, of course, Dorothy, she's got the power, which gets to the Wizard of Oz, and it was the Emerald City, which represented Washington, D.C. And the only way in the book was you had to put on these glasses to turn everything green. And that represented, of course, the greenbacks. There's a very good series of articles, I don't know if it's there anymore, on Gold Eagle. The gold standard, one step to fiat. That's the approximate title of it. Because once you're on a monometallic standard, once you control one metal, then you're great. It's much easier to just move that into a gold cover. It's 40% backed, then it's 10% backed, then it's not backed. And basically that's what happened without admitting it in 1971. I mean, de Gaulle called the bluff. The United States sent ships over and said, oh, well, if you trade these pieces of paper for gold, we'll take the gold. You keep the paper. And that only went on for so long, and then temporarily closed the gold window. So my final point, and this is the most important one, I'm going to give the same speech, and I'll try to, make it even more thorough, because I only had 20 minutes in New Orleans, which is fine. And so I showed the central bank purported holdings of gold and silver. So in silver, it's 1.6 billion, and in gold, it's 1.6 trillion. So if silver were treated like gold, if you multiplied the amount of silver held, then you can do it either way. You can increase the amount of silver, or you can increase the price. So let's just increase the price of silver to equal the price of gold, just for the heck of it, all right? As a thought experiment. I'm not saying they're going to trade at par. I'm just saying if you held the same amount in monetary reserves, you would have to hold it at a ratio where it was the same value. So if there's 1.6 trillion in gold, then you could conceivably have 1.6 trillion in silver. So you take the 1.6 billion and multiply it by 10, you get 16 billion. You multiply it by 10 again, you get 160 million. You multiply it by 10 again, then you get your 1.6 trillion, which means you'd have to take the price of silver to 1,000 times what it is now for it to equal in paper price what gold does, if they were treated equally. Obviously, they're not. Silver's demonetized in 1873. That's, again, going back to what the Wizard of Oz is all about. The bankers had some foresight. They knew they had to get rid of silver. Remember, that was when it was free trading money. You could be a miner or a farmer. If you had silver, you could take it to the Treasury of the United States of America, give the silver to the Treasury. They would mint it into coins, and they take a slight amount out of the silver, not the coin. They would take it out of the coin. They would take part of the silver that you'd given them to mint for them for payment. It's called Cineridge, if I pronounce it right. And they would keep that money or that silver, which is money then, as payment for labor, cost of, minting this thing out, maybe purifying it. I don't know about that, and that would happen. So, think about it. The last thing the bankers want is for people to control their own money. But in that time period, you could. I don't know how much of that went on, really. I've never really looked into that deeply enough to know. I don't think very much, but it could happen. So, back in those days, a silver miner knew they were mining money. They knew that because it was in circulation. That's most of the working class used silver. And just the bankers were using gold for the most part. I mean, there were some gold transactions, but not many. So once they took it out, they had a lot of foresight. So if silver is treated like gold as a monetary reserve right now, you'd either have to multiply the price by 1,000, which is basically impossible, or you'd have to own the vast more amount than you have now. And to match gold, of course, that's physically impossible because there isn't that much silver available in the market. There's probably 2 billion ounces. So you might be able to get there, but I don't think you'd be able to get to 3. So you couldn't really get, even if you got every available investment grade ounce of silver, still couldn't match the gold. So that's the way it is. I thought it was a very good thought experiment. So the point of it is, and I'm probably belaboring it, but the highest function of silver is money. That's its highest function. If you go back in time, and I did this at the beginning of the speech, and look at the gold-silver ratio that everyone makes so much hoopla about. So I decided I wanted to set the record straight the way I see it. Certainly you don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to point out that history's on my side. If you go back to before 2500 BC, the earliest recorded time, the gold-silver ratio in ancient Egypt was 2.5 to 1. It took 2.5 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. And you go into all the time BC, it never got above about 12. And you go from the time of Jesus' death until 1873, and it never got above 16. So we're talking about 4,000 years to 1873. Now, 1873 in 100 years is 1973, and I happen to know we're in the year 2019, or at least that's what we're told. So it's been slightly more than 100 years. But if you put this on a graph, you would have a graph of showing the gold-silver ratio of 16 or less for 4,000 years. 4,000 years, and only in the last 100 of those years would it have been above the 16 level. And that's when it was money. But once it was demonetized, the ratio went far, far away. So the value of silver is actually the greatest when it's money. And I believe the bankers knew that in 1873. I think so. That's one of the reasons they demonetized it. So if silver was ever thought of as money again, and it will be, because there'll be such a run to gold that everyone, not everyone, but a few, but we're only at, less than 1% of the people in the U.S. invest in silver, and that's one of the biggest markets. So what will happen is there'll be a lot more people that will run into a very, very small market because gold will be priced out of them, or they'll see the benefits of owning silver over gold. For right now, if, you could consider taking some of your gold and maybe trade it for silver. The ratio is so high. But that's the story of the ratio. So you can argue with me, David, you're wrong. It's not money. It is legal. We said that in your last show. I won't go over that again. But it's a very interesting thought experiment. As far as silver and money, again, the word silver and the word money is synonymous. It's the exact word in the Romance languages. It really, I have to digress one more time, but it's at a conference years ago, like 15 years ago. One of the better known personalities in our business was giving a speech, and he said silver's not money. And a few of my fans ran over to me and told me what he said. And I said, he can say whatever he wants. I'm for free speech. It's rather ignorant to say silver isn't money, because if you went down to Mexico or Argentina or Peru or Chile or any of those places I've been on these mining excursions, and you told people that money isn't money, they'd look at you cross-eyed. They wouldn't have a clue what you've been talking about. But he wasn't educated on that. I'm not trying to put him down. I won't say who it was. But it's like I just blew it off, because a lot of things that relate to the silver market. A lot of people don't know. Look, there's lots of stuff I don't know. There's lots of stuff I don't know about silver. I never claim to know everything, but I do know a lot more than average. I've spent years looking into the silver market, studying, reading anecdotal books about it. Everything that I pretty much get my hands on, and I don't have a perfect memory either. But this is something that is rather disturbing to me because it's more control and the control of the banking elites over basically humanity. I mean, this isn't a U.S. problem. This is a human problem. This is a worldwide problem. And so, if we, meaning we, the people of the world, not necessarily we, the people of the United States, got together and everybody tried to save something in silver, we'd blow them out of the water. But it's not going to happen. Once this depression hits, once the monetary system is changed, it could take place where most people aren't even aware of why or anything about it. All they'll know is the how. They'll know that they now have this little, doodad on their phone that they have to use for payment and they can't use a credit card anymore, or whatever happens. They won't even know why. I think, and that disturbs me greatly. I mean, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I'd say almost everybody would know why. I don't think so. I think that they're so slick, the media, the controlled media, that most people will be convinced by the media that this was, totally necessary. It was based on it's either the war or another country or those nasty speculators or some combination of make it up. It'll be something other than the truth. And that most people will buy the lie and they will institute a new form, a new monetary reform, which be careful what it is, because depending on what your persuasion is, you might want to opt out.
Well, we've been speaking with David Morgan, the Silver Guru. David, if people want to find out more about your work, where can they find you?
Just go to themorganreport.com and you can sign up for a free newsletter. I do have a Twitter feed and I do have a YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is The Morgan Report. The Twitter feed is at SilverGuru22, or you can probably find it by typing my name in it. I'm not sure what the search engine is like. And, those are two places you can go. But the best thing to do, really, is to get on our free list. Every interview I do, I put out on that list for everyone. I do a weekly wrap-up for everyone. And I don't charge, on my YouTube channel. Do a lot for free because I think it's important that people have the knowledge that they need to make their own decisions. And I think the alternative media, as long as it's still standing, is vital for people to at least get both sides. They might not agree with everything, and they don't have to. What they have to do is use their own ingenuity, their own brain, their own God-given ability to think and determine for themselves what the best course of action is. Look, I've never advocated that, you need just food and precious metals. That's ridiculous. But I do advocate that you have some precious metals. And as far as food, I don't think there's anything wrong with owning it because I think it's a no-lose bet. And the financial system at large is in deep, deep trouble. And their agricultural system is in trouble now and probably has been for quite some time. Because one thing that I don't emphasize enough is that it takes 10 calories of energy to make 1 calorie of food under the present system. That can't go on forever either. So there's a lot out there that's going to be corrected by nature itself. It's not going to be whether these people can manipulate the market forever, David. David, they've been doing it for so long, they can do it forever. No, they can't. There's something called nature. So you can't print a piece of paper that says silver on it and put it in an iPhone. It won't work. And that's true for the food supply. That's true for the water. It's true for the air. It's true for everything. Everything's been corrupted. I'm on a rant, but honestly, we've got to look at value. It's valuable to have pure air. It's valuable to have clean water. It's valuable to have healthy food. It's valuable to tell the truth. And these things are, that kind of integrity is what made America great. But it's not like that anymore. Everybody's chiseling off of everybody else for the almighty dollar. The real religion in the United States of America is the dollar. Everyone bows to the dollar. Everyone wants the dollar, and everyone thinks about it all the time. But if you really analyze where the faith is in this country, it's not in God anymore. It's in the dollar. That's where the faith is.
Well, David, before we let you go, can you stick around for another bonus question for our Patreon supporters?
Absolutely, sure.
And for those of you who are not yet Patreon supporters, guys, the way that, as David is talking about, us being able to be bold and to tell the truth about what's really going on, that's counter to what you hear in the mainstream media, that you're going to get here on independent media, is supported by you. So if you can go to patreon.com/reluctantpreppers at any amount on a monthly basis, you can get access to this and other bonus footage from all of our guests. So thanks for supporting us at Reluctant Preppers. And David, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for letting me rant.
Absolutely. Bonus footage from other guests we've had on. Come on over right now to patreon.com/reluctantpreppers and access that bonus footage there. Take care.
It seems so hard to order. Who can I trust and how do I even start?
Oh, you just go to sdbullion.com/rp, pick out whatever gold or silver you want, add it to your cart, you can check out, and it's on its way. And they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, it's that easy?
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
After I order gold or silver, how can I trust I'm going to get it? And I don't want everybody to know that I'm ordering gold and silver.
Oh, it's okay. It's fully insured, it's trackable, and you have to sign for it, so nobody else is going to get it but you. And it comes discreetly packaged. If you order a small amount, like maybe gold, it'll probably come in a box that looks something like this.
Okay.
And if you order a large amount, maybe like silver, it'll come in a box that looks something like this.
Wow.
But it doesn't say gold or silver on there. It might say something industrial or something else like that, but nobody's going to know what you ordered.
Oh, that's great to know.
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
If I own gold or silver, how will I ever be able to spend it?
Oh, sure. Well, consider good times or bad times. Like in good times, you can sell it back to the same place you bought it from. sdbullion.com/rp will buy it back at the best price guaranteed on the internet. You can take it to a local coin shop and get cash in your hand, completely anonymous. Some people you know may be willing to take gold or silver coins in exchange for goods or services. Now, in bad times, when things have really fallen apart, time after time in history, people have found that in hard times, gold and silver really does come through as something that people recognize as value even after everything else has failed. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
What if gold or silver drop in price after I order it?
Well, everything fluctuates with time, but nothing has held up longer and better than gold and silver throughout all the changes that have happened in history. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp.
What good does gold do me anyway? I can't use it for anything.
Well, I think I found a form you might appreciate.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wow, I can wear that just about anywhere.
And you can take it with you through airport security and across borders. It's small and compact and lightweight, and you can even hand it down through generations. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP. Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions.